when my Sifu learned from him and brought it to Israel, is that we say it's like Bruce Lee came to Israel, because the mentality of Krav Maga takes over the material that Bruce Lee worked with, and then something else is born.
Okay, yes, Kung Fu Chronicles back again where we belong. Thank you all so much for riding with me. Some new cool content is up on the page, and I hope you are all enjoying that, right? We've got a new series called Debunk the Junk. It's a new series all about self-defense, and if you don't know, now you know. So check it out. Not now, but later. Right now, I want you to do me that huge favor. Smash that like button like you've never smashed it before, because I want you to let me know if you're feeling the content, and of course, what kind of content you like so we can bring you more. All right, this go round, it's another 5 crucial questions for yet another Kung Fu master. This time we're going all the way out to Israel. That's right, Middle East, baby. It's Master Giora Orman. He teaches a style called Wu Wei Kung Fu, which is a non-traditional style founded by one of Bruce Lee's original students from Seattle. So we'll talk to Master Orman about that and much, much more. Make sure, guys, you stay to the end of this video, by the way, so you can see some of this Wu Wei Kung Fu in action. That's right, Master Orman's going to be showing us some self-defense techniques straight from his system to your eyes, so don't go anywhere.
We ain't going anywhere.
Let's do this. I have Mr. Giora Orman out there in Israel, and for people that do not know him or don't recognize him from Fightworld, the Netlflix series, I think people may recognize you, sir. I personally was introduced to you by a mutual friend, Mr. Eric Nelson, but I just wanted to say hello first. How are you?
Great, doing great. Here in sunny Israel, it's very hot this morning. I've been training for about 2.5 hours already, which is the morning session.
Of course, thank you for doing this. Let me ask you first of all, of course, just a little history. How did you get started in the martial arts, and when did you get started? I should say both.
Okay, so I've been training in martial arts most of my life. I'm 39 this July in a month, and I've been training since I was 9. Since I came to Israel with my family, so I began training in karate and taekwondo, and a hybrid style of, you can say it's like a mishmash with Kyokushinkai and taekwondo and judo, which counter-terrorism experts developed and trained us kids in. Yeah. And then I began my Chinese martial arts training with Nanchuan, which is a classical Kung Fu style. And when I was about 13, I met my Sifu, Eyal Cohen, who is the head of our system. It's going to be 15 years now.
Okay, nice.
And I was acquainted with Wu Wei, and since then, this is what I do. Of course, in the military and in other courses after the military, I was trained as a bodyguard, as a professional bodyguard. And so my interaction with Krav Maga began there. Since then, I'm a student, until today. This is what I do.
When you were studying, what made you want to actually start teaching as well? Or was that always your goal?
Like everyone, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee. I saw Enter the Dragon. Was the first film I saw. I came from the Ukraine and was still communist back then, just the fall of the communist state, and we didn't watch any American movies. So maybe the first American movie I saw was Enter the Dragon, and I saw that. I looked at my father. He was like this. I said, "Dad, this is what I want to do in my life."
Right.
He said, "You want to be Chinese?" I said, "No, I want to do martial arts." And then I saw the impact that it had on me, and I wanted to do that for other people, and that's it. I mean, as long as I can remember, I want to be a martial artist and a teacher.
So with Wu Wei, I was reading a little bit about it. I know basically your founder was one of Bruce Lee's first students out there. Explain to me a little bit about, because I know it's not a classical style, but what are like some of the differences between, say, like Wu Wei and say like Jeet Kune Do, which is like Bruce Lee's?
Yeah. So our founder was Joseph Cowles. He passed away a few years back, and he was one of the students in the Seattle era. So Bruce Lee had, like, I believe, like three major times in his life where he was teaching core students, and every time he progressed in his understanding of fighting. And the Seattle era was the first. I think that afterwards was a group in Oakland that got very good. And then in LA, the Jeet Kune Do people started to thrive. I mean, I probably don't remember the history that well, but I'm not a Bruce Lee history expert. And Sifu Cowles, he took what he learned from Bruce Lee, and it was very important to him to pass on that information as it was, without changing it at all, because he believed that, first of all, he adored Bruce Lee, like all of his students, I think, and was a very humble human being. So I think he believed that everyone needs a chance to learn from the source, to interpret whatever Bruce Lee had in mind that time, his own way. So we have the taproots, which are like the things that Bruce Lee taught, which we do not change. Okay. But what we build upon it. So Sifu Cowles took in the things he believes, like things from Wally J's small circle jiu-jitsu, and things from boxing that Bruce Lee took. So and he developed them further. And when my Sifu learned from him and brought it to Israel, we say it's like Bruce Lee came to Israel, because the mentality of Krav Maga takes over the material that Bruce Lee works with, and then something else is born. So at this moment, we're maybe 5 instructors, because it's a very demanding system, and every class looks different. Every school looks different, and we train together at least once a month, and everybody's in a different direction. And my teacher, he loves it. I mean, but we never change the things that we are passing through to the next generation from Bruce Lee. Now, we do have a connection to the classical systems, because we don't believe we need to throw them out, but we use them as a more demanding system of training. See, because when I train in a classical Kung Fu style, it takes much more effort to do every move. You have to be very conscious of every angle on your foot, the distribution of weight, the way your hands are held, and something that is lacking in modern martial arts. Yeah. Everybody wants to be the best, everybody wants to say that his stuff is the best, but you need to be a little bit humbled by the 3,000-year experience that people have with, be a student for more time than you think you should be. And I think that we need to take those things from classical martial arts and adopt them, because standing in a low mabu position for a long time, this develops discipline. Now, you can read books about discipline until your face goes blue, but if you stand in this position, you understand what's the function of discipline within your body physiologically, and it crosses language barriers, it crosses everything. So I believe that, especially Kung Fu, because I'm a Kung Fu enthusiast, but especially Kung Fu, I think it holds within a lot of treasures that we tend to throw away because we don't have the immediate satisfaction from just punching something on the first time you go to class, Hold on!
Oh, jeez! Let me ask you this, so yes, it's the balance, because I also do Krav Maga as well, which I think is great to talk to you. I've only been doing Krav Maga for like the last 3.5 years, but I love the practicality in the sense, and that's what I get, even though I love traditional as well. But in Wu Wei, is there forms involved at all, or is it just straight practicality and combat? From the first time you go into class, you're in contact with someone in some way. We do a lot of sparring after the first year,
because the first year, like the basic material comes from Wing Chun, boxing, some fencing, all the stuff Bruce Lee did, and the stuff that every instructor puts in. Like I really love application of wrestling for street application and counter wrestling, to be more exact. And I love the games that we play to not get pinned to the ground and to continue standing and moving against multiple opponents, which is like the stuff that I grew up upon. And I felt always that were not emphasized enough in martial arts classes. And I used to deal with that on an almost daily basis. So it's very important to me. And then after the first year, you get into sparring, and it's almost every lesson, and you get into the first form. Now, we use 3 forms that are inspired by Wing Chun forms. One is almost the same, the Siun and Tao. And we do our variation of the wooden dummy.
Okay.
Which is, Bruce Lee never learned the wooden dummy from Yip Man.
Right.
So, yeah. And I believe he offered to pay him or something like that. There's like a story.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because even in the movies, people see the wooden dummy, they think it's just Bruce Lee.
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah. I really don't care. People idolize people, and then they try to break down the idol by making him human. And I mean, you got inspired by someone because of the inspiration. I mean, don't be childish. He's not perfect. Nobody is.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. So our variation of the wooden dummy is a little bit different, and you can see the Bruce Lee in it. Yeah. I mean, you can see the instead of being very classical, sometimes just go pa, 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 and then you go in like a boxer. So we do that, but the forms are more to remember what was classical, because we don't believe in to say, okay, this is classical. No, it's not good. No, you have to decide for yourself. If you want to decide for yourself that you don't want to do this or that, you have to do it by personal experience, which was, I believe, the main message of Bruce Lee. Be honest, express yourself honestly, and judge by your own experience. Don't let others tell you what to think. I mean, so the moment I see people like tribaling around Jeet Kune Do, not Jeet Kune Do, just read the last page of the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Yes. He tells you, if you start arguing, if this is Jeet Kune Do, if this is not Jeet Kune Do, throw everything away and run. I mean, it's not about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So then let me ask you too, rounding that out, like training in Israel has got to be, obviously you guys just went through a whole situation with everything. Hostilities are high. Yeah. Have you had to use your martial art practically, like in real life situations?
I've used my martial arts in real life situations, in different situations. Some of them were more civilian, other were non-civilian situations. My students used their martial arts training this way and still do. The way martial arts work in Israel is a little bit different than in other places, although I haven't traveled the whole world, so I can't really say. I know the Germans are very, very practical as well. I mean, as a people, they like to know what they're training for. Right. And in Israel, you won't send your child, even a small kid, you won't send him to a martial arts class. Usually, I mean, you have different people, but usually you want to see a self-defense application of everything he does. Like a child, even a small child. You as an adult, you usually you like to see these shades of self-defense and fighting in martial arts. There are more and more people today in Israel that practice competitive martial arts and let's say competitive fighting. Okay, and some people that practice the more soft style of martial arts, but it's the main core will want you to teach them to fight, the feelings that we need. Now, funny part is that 10 years ago, I started the project with Orthodox Jews and Arabs and non-religious people. So my point was to connect everyone physically and then mentally. I believe in that. And it's been a very hard road, but still work. And the way I know it works, that even though the hostilities here were very high this time was very tribal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And my Arab students and my Christian Arab students and my Orthodox students, everybody still came to train.
Love that.
And trained the same way. And even though some people were attacked on the streets, not my students, but some people were attacked on the streets, and it was serious. And everybody felt protected, you know?
Yeah.
And we train outside a lot.
Okay.
And you have crazy people on all sides. I mean, you know, crazy people, you just need to flip a coin in the right direction and they go berserk.
And they go crazy.
So, yeah. So we felt the safety net that we have just because we train together and we understand each other. And it's very interesting to see because it transcends every type of political argument and nonsense. I mean, I think martial arts teaches you that you don't have to love each other to get along, and there is such a thing as a honor between opponents.
Yeah,
it's okay to disagree, but we have to keep some classical honor in what we do, to be honorable, and it doesn't have to be some politician to tell you what to do.
Right.
No, it has to be from the inside. It's a way of educating ourselves as a society. So this is my spiel with the
philosophy. No, I love that. And by the way, I was going to mention that because I love when I was watching the series how you have this. It's like the coming together in your classes. It doesn't matter if you're Arabic. It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim. You're Palestinians training your school. Israel, and all kinds of people train in your school. I love that fact. As a matter of fact, I was about to ask, and I think that's probably part of the culture because everybody speaks the same language when it comes to the training, right? It's the fighting. You're all there for a common goal. I love that point.
Yeah, so the fighting part is very cultural, and also the friendship afterwards. Yes. There was something that I spoke about, that we bleed the same and we sweat the same, and you know, the mask that we put on to smell different and to look different. When you train, you can't use them anymore.
Right.
And
yeah.
I mean, everybody stinks. Yeah. Everybody sweats and everybody bleeds. And
yes.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter where you're from, how much money you have, or who your parents were. Yeah. If you didn't block, you get clocked in the face, and that's it. That's the God honest truth of reality. Yeah, so what's the point here? The point between self-defense and fighting is that in fighting, we want to win. In self-defense, we want to disengage as fast as possible from the violent situation. Yes. It's a different formula, and it doesn't work the same. You take a boxer who was trained to win, like a gladiator, like a tiger.
Right.
He's not trained to avoid the situation. He's trained to win. And that winning may cause him to die in a bar fight.
Right.
But it doesn't mean he's a bad fighter. He's just an awful self-defender.
Yeah, no, there's a difference. I tell people that all the time. There's a difference between fighting, especially, as you know, sports fighting especially. It's not UFC, MMA versus trying to save your own life. It's two different things. So if people want to come out there to train with you, do you guys, I know you have a website and stuff, and like, where would they find you?
So I'm on Instagram. My full name, Giora Orman, Wu Wei, which is a helpful handle, but I don't know. I'm still bad with these stuff. Yeah, I have my site is Kung Fu with a K, Kung Fu Trainer. .co.il.
I've got 5 questions that I always ask every Kung Fu master. Is that cool? I ask you right now. I'm gonna ask you the 5. Cool?
Yeah, sure. They just found me one day. I got a phone call. One of my students helped them find Israeli instructors.
Everybody sweats the same. Everyone who fights has to have a reason why. And I think that in the end, most reasons are the same.
Who had like something maybe different about them. So they found one of my colleagues Eitan, who was the military instructable guy, indestructible guy.
Yeah. He was awesome.
And then they did the second part with me, which was amazing. I mean, the guys were amazing. Frank was, dude, he's the real deal. I mean, this guy can fight. He was measuring me all the time, like measuring the distance. We were just talking. I said, okay, I'm gonna fight this guy. I mean, he wants to fight.
Yeah, I want to ask you, how is he fighting? Is he good? He's good. So you're saying he's good?
You touch his body. You know, sometimes when you grab someone, it feels like a leaf.
Yeah.
And sometimes you grab someone and you feel the experience on his body. I mean, you feel him that his body has been fighting for all of his life. I mean, I'm professionally. I know we spoke after that, and I know he likes to train boxing every day. But he's a workhorse. I mean, you can see and can feel him. He's very stable, and it's not that easy to take him out of position. And I always stab people with a knife when they try to grapple me. So I always have some blade on me or something like that. Yeah, because he took my leg for a single leg, and I stabbed him with a knife. No, it's an aluminum knife, just without the edge. And I wasn't sure if we were going to go into the fight, into a real fight right now, because the moment I touched him with the blade, I wasn't sure where he was going, but he understood that he wasn't stabbed with a real knife.
Right.
So it was good. I mean, he's a great guy. All of the cast were so professional, so amazing, and I was very thankful for them for telling our story differently, because every time there's something about Israel and Krav Maga, it always looks like we're some psychotic killers who are only trying to kill someone with our bare hands. But it's much more complicated than that. We choke them too.
Yeah, right.
First of all, I don't think it's MMA versus Kung Fu or MMA versus whatever. It's MMA is one thing, is a growing sport, which I love. I watch it all the time. But there's a difference between a professional athlete who is genetically gifted and he's on the top of the food chain physically and mentally. He was born to be focused on defeating someone in the ring in hand-to-hand combat. Yep. That's one specimen. For martial arts were developed mostly for people like you and I, who are real warriors in a modern sense. You go to work in the morning, you take care of your kids, you take care of your family, you come back from work, you have 2-3 hours to train, and then you go home back to your responsibilities. I always tell my students that being a Shaolin monk is not tough. You don't get to decide. Yeah. You wake up in the morning, they kick the living shit out of you until the night, and then repeat.
Right.
Do that as a father of two, while struggling to pay your mortgage, and then we'll talk. See? Yeah. So there's a difference between the things. Now, a lot of martial artists don't train to fight, or don't train to apply their system, their style, their knowledge towards that type of fighting. Now, if you don't train like that and you go into the ring to prove your style is better, you're in over your head. Why would you swim with sharks?
Yeah,
I mean, that's not smart, right? But if you train for competition fighting, be aware that our mind is very likes to specialize on things. So if I see eyes on the prize, right? I see winning everywhere. You will be an awful, bodyguard, for example.
Yeah.
So in Wu Wei, you have 3 ways of fighting. I think in every type of fighting, you have 3 ways of fighting. Self-defense, fight to neutralize your opponent, and defend someone who cannot defend themselves. The one which is the least common in our life is to fight to neutralize the opponent. Okay? The least common. I mean, most of the time you defend yourself or defend someone who cannot defend themselves, right? what I mean, you can think, or maybe if you're locked in an elevator with some crazy guy who wants to kill you, then you have to kill him back, or I don't know,
Right. Yeah.
neutralize him, right? So, but what we idolize the most because of Hollywood, because of sport, because of comic books, is that ability to defeat someone in single combat, which is very rare. I mean, there's a reason why it doesn't happen every day, you know?
Yeah.
If you want to compete, you need to go to a trainer who knows something about competition and train under him.
Right.
There's a saying in Chinese martial arts, by the way. If you want to apply Kung Fu, you need to learn how to fight. In self-defense, there's a formula. React. Sabotage. Disengage. React is your singular reaction to the situation. It's always after your stress response, your flinch reflex, let's say. And so you react, then you sabotage. You have to do something to make him run slower or not run at all.
Yes.
Then disengage from the situation, because the longer the situation is, the worse your percentages of getting out of it clean.
Now, yep.
Including sitting in a police station all night, explaining why he looks like that.
Right.
Because that's a problem, you know? I've been there, unfortunately. And when you call your wife saying, no, I'm in a police station, you need to come and just tell them that I'm a good guy.
Yeah.
I mean, as a martial artist, as a human being, you don't want to be in that. About ring fighting, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I love watching these guys. I think they're amazing. I have no understanding of fighting sports. Not as an instructor. So first of all, I'm not a purely Krav Maga guy, but I like the way Krav Maga cleans the way to the essentials to become a combative system.
Yes.
Krav Maga is a combative system. It's not a martial art. Although I believe you can express yourself as a martial artist through Krav Maga. But its main intention was to train military and defense soldiers and defense forces in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
So you have to strip away many things that take too long. But in Israel, Krav Maga has, I believe, three phases. One is the general, send your kids to the Krav Maga class thing, which they also developed with belts and stuff like that, and a ranking system and stuff, and everything is more. It looks more like a martial arts class. The second is what you learn in the military, because every one of us goes to the military at the age of 18, at least for 3 years. Most of us are not combat soldiers, but everyone gets some form of Krav Maga training, and this is military Krav Maga. Right. And then you have the professional Krav Maga that you train in. If you go, for example, to become a bodyguard, a professional bodyguard, this is a whole different story. This is a much more mature and much more professional training environment.
Yep.
The guys and women that I've trained from the States, I have to say, you guys take being a professional to a whole different level. I believe that the most professional guys I've trained in Krav Maga were from the States, because you have this systematic way of taking things and breaking them down and being very reliable, if that's the correct word, for what you teach. And I respect that, and I really respect that. When Eric and the guys from Citadel Krav Maga came to train with us, I was sure I'm going to see many of the different mistakes that I see many times from people from abroad that come to train with us, and I didn't see that. It was very, very good. The thing that I think that we do differently in Israel is that there is a sense of urgency to defend yourself, because 3 or 4 years back we had a wave of terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
Only with knives.
Wow.
only stabbings all over the country. Now, it's first of all, it's awful and it's horrible. But as a professional, you take the, I mean, where can you get such a huge body of knowledge to inspect and to learn? You know?
Yeah.
So, but everyone who comes through the door, they either know someone who was stabbed, or know, or it happened in their proximity in some way.
Right.
So it's very different. I mean, I don't have to teach aggressive behavior in these situations because people deal with their fears, the real fears that happen here, you know?
Yeah.
So we train to defend our children and our families and ourselves from things that happen a kilometer away from my house, and 5 minutes away. It's different. So first of all is responsibility. So you need to understand that whether you want or not, you're going to become an icon in the eyes of someone. So you better understand that you can't be rotten from the inside. It's like with children, you can't hide your bad behaviors. So either change them and take responsibility for them, or be out and open with them. Number two, you have to love what you do, and more than anything else, this is not a business-wise decision to become a martial arts instructor.
Mm-hmm.
That you will always put in much more than you will get back money-wise or economically. But I tell them this thing: I haven't worked for maybe 15 years since I began teaching. I don't work ever.
Wow.
Every day, people come to me, and when they leave me, they're better off. They have improved in some way. I will never give that up, ever. But you have to love it with all your heart, because they will test your patience every time.
All right, there you go, good people. Another 5 questions with yet another Kung Fu master. Hope you all enjoyed, and make sure you subscribe down below if you haven't already. Like and share, because that's how we grow. Let's go, let's grow, you know. Now, as promised, here's a few quick self-defense techniques direct from Israel to you.
I would like to share 2 principles of self-defense that you can adopt into your own style. By developing proper habits instead of compiling endless lists of techniques, we can develop a better and more natural response in a real-life situation. First habit has to do with a knife attack. As a rule of thumb, keep the blade moving instead of blocking it, and attack the eyes and throat continuously instead of trying to disarm the blade. The second habit has to do with the proper response to violent tension. As you can see in the video, a simple and direct attack tends to yield better results than a complicated counter move. Generally speaking, in self-defense, a decisive continuous attack has a much higher percentage of success than a well-executed defensive effort.
All right, so your opinion, what'd you think? Comment down below, let us know, and thanks of course to Master Orman and his students for being a part of this video.
Hey, this is Giora Orman, and thank you for watching Kung Fu Chronicles.
Guys, check out a few other videos you might like while you're here. As always, stay safe. See you in the next round, and of course, keep punching.